Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of the universe, this is Roster Watch. My name is Alex Dunlap. I'm joined by Cody Carpentier. And Cody, it's a big day, a big Monday. So pumped to be back here today. We have 17 days, 17 days until the NFL draft.
Yep.
we're coming up close on it. We're starting to get the countdown clock on for heading out for our coverage with our boys there at Player Profiler. It's going to be a great time. So make sure and stay tuned here on the YouTubes leading up into that, and of course here on the podcast feed. So happy to have all you guys here with us. If you could please remember to like the show and subscribe to the channel. A ton of new subscribers lately. Thank you guys so much for that. It really does help a lot. Cody, before we get into our final rankings that we put out over the weekend for quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. I guess we'll go over what running back and wide receiver today as far as the rookies.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, but before we do that, we did get some news from Dane Brugler over the weekend that I think so far the list of rookies who are going to be attending the NFL draft is at Michael Williams from Georgia, Matthew Golden from Texas, and Jalen Milroe from Alabama. Is there any others that I'm missing so far that have been announced?
That's all that have been announced. And last year's list was not that large either. It was 13 guys. So the official list last year came out on Thursday of this week. So we're assuming that list will probably come out later this week, but those are the three confirmed from Dane so far.
Okay, so yeah, and those all came from Dane Brugler, who's reporting that. As you mentioned, 13 invited last year, and that was a lower number than previous years, and they're saying it's going to be even fewer this year. And so the fact that Jalen Milroe gets an invite, that's really surprising to me, because if it's fewer guys that are going to be there, to me it would make it seem like, all right, fewer guys, we're going to make this more likely that these guys actually get drafted. They don't have this green room embarrassing fall where they got to come back the next day. Because we saw last year, they only invited 13 players, as we mentioned, and all 13 of them got drafted, right? No draft room falls last year. I went back and looked over the course of the last 5 years. So this is how it's gone. In 2023, there were 17 invited. The only ones not taken in round one were Brian Branch, who went in round two, Will Levis, who went in round two, and Keon White, that went in round two. In 2022, they invited 22 players. The ones who did not go in round one were Malik Willis, who went in round three, Matt Corral, who went in round three, N'Kobe Dean, who went in round three, and Kyler Gordon, who went in round two. In 2021, there were only 10 invited. And you got to remember that was the first year coming off COVID, and it was a little bit weird, right? But only 10 were invited that year. Only Christian Barmore, who was taken in the second round, was not taken in round one. 2020, there was no in-person event because of the government response to the coronavirus pandemic. Then in 2019, there were 23 invited. That was the only guys who did not go first round were Cody Ford, who went in the second, Juwan Taylor, who went in the second, Greedy Williams, who I could have sworn went in the first, but he went in the second, and then Drew Lock, who went in the second. So that's basically 12 total players over the last 5 drafts where they've had attendees invited. The ones who went in round one, it was 86% of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not perfect, but if you take all of them into consideration, it's like an 86% chance that you're going to get taken round one if you're one of these players who's invited. It would feel like, to me, do they know something about Milroe that we don't know? Because I think you and I both agree that Matthew Golden and Michael are going to go round one. But this is oftentimes really telling for us to use in for our mock draft stuff, and making sure that we get players into the first round that the league is really considering is going to go. I'm not sure, is Milroe just a big enough name? He's like, a star quarterback from Alabama. We should have him at the draft. Is there a little bit of that, or is there something we're not following here?
It's weird. Multiple thoughts here. I'll start with this one. First off, my last mock that came out last week, I put him 33rd to go to the Browns. So I think there's thought that the Browns or Steelers could potentially be sniffing on him, which wouldn't be the biggest shock, I guess, between those two teams, given Mike Tomlin playing against Lamar for how long he has, his interest in Malik Willis. The Browns how nonchalant they've been about the quarterback position. The second thought is when you look at that list you made, which is since COVID, obviously, it kind of acts out that 2021 year. But 2022, there's 22 guys, 2023, 17, last year, 13. And we hear the trend line is going to continue in that direction. If there's 13 again, 12, whatever it is, Milroe makes that cut. And we know a year where there's probably consensus around 14 to 16 first round graded players. It is weird because you're not going to intentionally invite somebody that's not going to get drafted in round one. I think the intention will be you're going to invite this guy because he's going to get drafted.
He goes and hugs Goodell. It's a good moment for the
No, and the other part of it is the quarterback position in this class. In this class, the quarterback positions, outside of Cam Ward, it could really in totality end up being a bit of a throw everything up in the air. Like what could happen? I'm not sure. Remember just like 2022 with that list, that Pickett year with Willis and Corral and Howell and all these guys. He also has this other factor where we know how he showed up to SEC Media Days. It might just be like, hey, they want to get pictures of this guy in some magnificent suit. That could be part of it.
he's a sharp dressed man. I don't know. I'm starting to think more and more. It's like somebody's gonna fall in love with Milroe.
Who? Is it the Browns? Because they haven't done anything.
Yeah, maybe.
Are you going to go into the season with Kirk Cousins and Kenny Pickett?
No, I don't think the Browns are going to the Super Bowl. Period.
Well, I didn't say they were going to the Super Bowl. I said you're going into the season.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't. I think I don't know. I think that they might have to at this point. I mean, right now I'm not even sure that. I'm not sure that. I'm not sure that Kirk Cousins is like. I mean, are you considering that just a total lock at this point?
I think it's a lock, man. That's been the murmur, and they've been just so low key about everything. And if they don't go Shador at 2, Kirk was down yesterday with John Gruden in Tampa, and Kirk was on like a 6-minute video. And he's actually, I think I might have sent it to you or something, but he was talking about the Senior Bowl and stuff. So it's a pretty good clip. But within that, he was talking about how he brought up Stefanski's name because Stefanski not only he was in Minnesota for a year with Kirk, but that Stefanski was he was actually my play caller at the Senior Bowl. He said Stefanski was. So I think there's connection there. I think there's merit to that. I think that's probably where he's going to end up. He's just chilling. Doing his thing, but I think he's going to be a Brown for sure. Whenever that happens, it happens. I think Rodgers will be a Steeler. And interesting thing is that I've always felt like Tyler Shook maybe felt like the most sense at like 33, the top of the second round for the Browns. But and I get to that point in the mock, and you're like, man, this makes sense. But then it's weird. Like when you listen to McShay, like I'll listen to McShay for certain things. He'll say some things. I'm like, he feels a little bit off there. He feels like he's trying to send a message here. But like this guy sat down with Tyler Shook and he's had conversations with him and he's a big fan of him. But when he gets to like a conversation, he talks about a team and then he says like Browns this, Browns that, Browns that. And then he goes, and Tyler Shook and where's he going to land? And he just like kind of goes, Browns. Like you can kind of tell that his brain is saying Browns aren't interested in Tyler Shook. That's what I've gotten from my digestion of Todd McShay talking about Tyler Shook. And again, like I said, I just explained why I read into that because he's had an interview with him. He's talked to him. He's a big fan of him. And I felt like that was a good spot. And you look at like Dart now seems like he's going to probably be a first round pick, going to be out of the Browns range. So you get down from Cam, Shador, Dart. If Shook isn't on the list, then you become, all right, is it Milroe? Is it Quinn? What? If the Browns take a quarterback, are they going to like take Will Howard in the fourth?
Is Jalen Milroe even a fit for what Stefanski wants to do?
I don't even know. I don't even know. But like, what's with the way that offense looks right now? Can you tell me that there's like a definitive like, oh yeah, we need to just get a pocket passer in here that can feed these weapons? It's like, all right, well, we like David Njoku,
right?
Jerry Jeudy had a good season last year. Cedric Tillman's nice. But like none of those guys get respect from anybody, and there's no run game, and the offensive line is beat to hell. It's old.
Yeah.
It's like if there was ever a spot to potentially put a Jalen Milroe, and he may have to run for his life a little bit, and he doesn't exactly have all the weaponry around him, so he's kind of got to create by himself. I could tell myself a story there. Whereas, like, if I was trying to tell myself a story, if we're gonna bring Tyler Shook in at pick 33, and we're gonna make him earn that job against Kenny Pickett in the preseason, he's gonna take that job. There's not enough weaponry there for either of these guys to succeed.
Well, I mean, and isn't Stefanski's offensive approach? I mean, it's got a ton of that old like Mike Shanahan, Gary Kubiak stuff in it, right? Where it's like wide zone, you can take big shots off of after you've established the run game. I think that Milroe, if you just it was up and down in college, but if you were just to watch back, if you were just going to put up a highlight reel of just some of the big deep shots, I can picture some of them in my mind.
Well, also,
I can picture some of the explosive plays. I can picture I can think about the pass to Bond and versus Auburn, or the year before with Texas on the big Jermaine Burton play. Like there've been moments where he's been like, when his team has been able to establish it, he can get in a rhythm. He can make those big plays. It's just the whole thing about Milroe, just watching him in college, you just felt like, and I felt like it was Kalen DeBoer's big issue with him last year was just like, man, it's like the golden handcuffs. It's like, he's just good enough to where I have to play him. And he shows me enough to where I have to play him.
Tommy Rees is the new offensive coordinator for the Browns.
Oh, we'll explain what that means.
Kevin Stefanski has been the coach for the Browns. He was the play caller. He switched up. Ken Dorsey was the play caller last year. Tommy Rees was promoted. He was last year the pass game specialist and tight ends coach. He's been upgraded to offensive coordinator. Stefanski's now the play caller. Tommy Rees was the OC and the quarterback coach in 2023 at Alabama.
I'm not sure that if people have put that together, and to be honest, I hadn't thought about the whole Tommy Rees thing until you mentioned it just this second.
Well, I didn't.
It actually was such a surprise that it kind of fried my computer a little bit. I think it turned my mic off.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say I looked up and you didn't say anything, and then I realized you were muted.
Maybe it's Milroe to the Browns. I don't know, dude. That would be wild if that was the plan this whole time. And now it just brings up now what with Shedeur. What's gonna happen?
He's a saint.
Pretty dude. It sure would be pretty exciting. I know that. What was the rumor this week? Is that the Browns are circling in on Travis Hunter, or they're circling in on Abdul Carter, or
Hunter's just the odds on.
Yeah, it would be exciting to get Travis Hunter and Jalen Milroe. I mean, it's for a team that's self-admittedly going to be in total financial hell for until they can get out from under just the millstone that they have around their neck. That's Deshaun Watson's contract. It's like, get two guys like that could be, you're not having to pay much, and I mean, there's with Milroe, there's some downside, man, but there's a lot of upside with that duo too, dude. I mean, they could be good. All right. Do you want to get into our rankings here? How do you want to format this? Do you want to go running back or wide receiver first?
Let's do running back first.
All right. Okay. Well, at the very top, you, me, and Trash Man are right in line with each other as far as the top two. It's been the same top two the whole time for me. From the first time I saw Omarion Hampton, when I was actually watching defensive tackles for another team, I said, okay, I'm going to just stop doing this, and I'm just going to go back. I'm just going to go find all the Omarion Hampton I can. Watched all I could. I go, Cody, I haven't watched the other guys. I know Genty is going to be my running back one in this class just because we know ball and we watched him all season. But I just said I still have to do the work, but I find it very hard to believe I'm going to be able to find somebody that's a better RB2 than this, because this guy looks like an RB1 in any other class.
Yeah.
So we all have it the same.
So, yeah, we all have it the same. 1, 2, Trash Man has Quinshon 3, and then Travion 4. We have the inverse. One question about this top 4, and I've said my piece on end about it over the course of the last 2 months. But I just have a question, and I've kind of done this week, kind of as I'm going through, cross-checking myself, looking at things. And I just want to, we know how good Ashton Genty is. And I'm not going to go on something maybe you think I'm going to. I'm not going to say anything. My comp is not Rashad Penny. My comp is not Duke Johnson, no matter who out there.
Explain what that means. People might not know what that means because they might not have listened to the other podcasts or seen all the pushback you're getting on social media from some takes you had on another show.
I think more people have seen the take on Twitter than they have actually listened to the pod. So from the Song Truth podcast last week, the question was risen to me of comparing this class to the 2019 class, 2018 class with Saquon Barkley, who went second overall, and then Rashad Penny, who was later drafted in the first round. And it was posed to say that this class is closer to that class, and that Genty is the Saquon Barkley of the class. And I pushed back directly, saying that I didn't think that he was the Saquon Barkley of the class, and that he's closer to a Rashad Penny than he is Saquon Barkley. That was taken out of context to say that I was comping Genty to Rashad Penny, when in totality that is completely wrong, because you can't, because Penny, who's 5'11", 220 pounds, ran a 4.440 at San Diego State in the Mountain West. The only comparison is that they both did it in the Mountain West, and that Penny did it on 70 fewer carries, had a couple hundred less yards and a couple less touchdowns. But from a yard per carry stance, he averaged a half yard more than Genty per carry that season. My pushback and my whole thought here, and why I'm even bringing this up right now to talk about this, I didn't mean to bring that part up, but what I wanted to talk to you about, Alex, is oftentimes we go through this whole process and people will say, yeah, well, you've gone through the whole process and now you're just looking for reasons to go against it, or you've watched too much tape. You've gone through it too much. My question isn't that. My question is, I've been posting a lot of clips lately of guys that maybe had high-end output in college or were drafted in the first round. Think of N'Keal Harry, think of Monte Ball, think of guys like this, or Miles Sanders, stuff like this. And they didn't come through. They didn't completely come to fruition. Injuries, other things happen. My one question is, when you're looking at the profile of Ashton Genty, are there things that we're overlooking? Because if you just go out and ask the layman, he'll say, well, we've known Genty's been the RB1 in this class. He's generational. We knew before the year he was the top running back in the class. We knew last year he was the top running back in the class.
I didn't know last year.
People have said that. Okay. And that's my pushback. And that's my thought is, a year ago right now, Alex, actually, even closer, like in May of last year, post NFL draft. If you go to ESPN right now, you can look up the way too early drafts for this draft cycle. Last May, Jordan Reed did a mock draft for ESPN. Do you know where Ashton Genty was in the first round for the 2025?
I have no idea. No idea.
He was not on there.
Yeah.
In June, Matt Miller did a mock draft for ESPN, way too early mock draft. He was not on there. In August.
Well, that goes along with what I was saying. I didn't know Genty was going to be this good in 2024 coming into it. They didn't either.
This is the whole point. In August, Field Yates did when he was not included. And a lot of this is taking nothing away from what Genty did this year. Prolific. You can see it on the field. He's grown. He's an animal. He plays like he's 225 pounds. The contact balance is elite. I'm not fighting any of that. Like we just said, he's a top running back in the class. I love all four of these guys. My question is, are we overstepping? Are we missing anything? Because the profile, when you look at it, he's not the biggest. He's not the tallest. He doesn't weigh the most. His length isn't the best. He didn't run. We think he's probably a 4.47, 4.48. That's where I think he's at. The profile's good, but are we missing anything? Could we be bitten by anything here?
Well, he didn't run. That's at least one data point, right? And what he's thinking is his agent's saying it's like the Marvin Harrison last year. He's the top option at his position in this deal. It's like he's just not going to run. Like they're not going to add in a new data point, especially if he comes in and runs at pro day a 4.54. Like that could be something that could, in this class, I think that there was a time where you could gather information and you could look and see like, well, uh, the guys who were, maybe slightly heavier than me, like Quinshon Judkins, who's 220 pounds. He goes and runs what a 4.4, somewhere in the 4.48. Travion, who is 9 pounds lighter than him, runs a 4.43. Omarion Hampton, who's in the 220, who's 220, runs a 4.46. Right, all these guys run fast except for Caleb Johnson.
Yep.
RJ Harvey's right around his weight, runs a 4.4 flat. Jarquez right around his weight, runs a 4.44. Bashal Tootin, he's 206. He runs a 4.32. I mean, all these guys, even Dylan Sampson runs the 4.4. Was that a 4.4? He was pro day.
4.47, yeah.
4.47 pro day adjusted. He's he's more like 200 even.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's like all of a sudden, I think Ginty's still RB1 in the class. It's like if he runs a 4.55 or something, but it definitely brings some questions to bear to say like, well, it's like you got all these other guys that are running faster this year. It's like maybe a little bit of a knock on his profile, and it would change the difference between him and Omarion Hampton. I think I would still, I think I still have him as RB1. So, but maybe that's something like, did he not run because he's going to run over 4.5 again? Though I just rely on the stuff where it wasn't like where we knew before the season, and half the stuff that we think before the season turns out being bad and wrong and stuff anyway. It's like it turns out to be so wrong, but I go back to the fact that I don't think I've ever seen. I just don't remember the last time I saw a running back that's just just as elusive as this guy. That people talk about the contact balance, they talk about it, but I mean, there's a reason why. It's like if I were trying to teach somebody how to evaluate running backs and stuff in there, what does contact balance mean? I'll be like, come over here real quick and let me pull up this all 22 cut up of Ashton Ginty.
I mean, it's Kamara in the NFL. That's the only other person I can think of. But that wasn't college. It's in the NFL.
Yeah, well, like the magical Alvin Kamara stuff where you're just like he doesn't have a comp.
Yeah.
He's just like, you compare him to everybody and you're just like, you finally had to say for Kamara when he was operating at the height of his powers. It's like, he doesn't, it's like they used to talk about for Walter Payton. He doesn't have a comp. I wasn't alive really for that, but it's what my dad would tell me. It's like, there wasn't anybody you could compare him to. He just had this different style and grace to him. And so with Kamara, it was sort of the same. I feel the same way about Ginty. And so I just look at him like, this is a guy who I've never seen anything like it. He's an alien. He's just so prolific. He can catch. He's supernatural catching the football. I don't even know exactly off the top of my head what his numbers were last season. Well, all right, so 23 catches last year. It's fine. It's a 9% share of the receptions. It's good. But more importantly, he looks natural doing it. He looks good framing the football. And just watch his pro day. I mean, it's like, this is a very natural guy that looks like an Adonis. So like, could we be missing something? Of course. Of course. He plays for Boise, right? I feel a lot more comfortable if he did this at Georgia or Tennessee or something, but
Wisconsin, like Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, I feel more comfortable if he did it on a Big Ten schedule.
I mean, Melvin had 2,000, didn't he?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I could pull back up the 2017 class.
343 carries, 2,587 yards, 29 touchdowns. Maniacal, but that was coming off. So I mean,
he's a good player, but see, that's the thing. It's like, this is the type of player that you get when you use top 15 draft capital on him. Those are the guys you get. You get the Zekes and the Melvin Gordons and the Ashton Gentys and the who else? Fournette.
Adding that as a comp. I know he's bigger, but
Saquon.
I'm not adding Saquon. I'm adding Melvin.
No. I'm just talking about if you take a running back in the top half of the first round, I think Melvin Gordon was a pick 15, something like that. So like if you take a running back there, like you're going to be you're taking running backs that have had mega volume, right? Like, so yeah. and Genty falls into that profile. It's weird. It's wild, dude. I'm seeing now that with the we probably don't even need to get into the Jets and Brees Hall. So, but do you have thoughts about that?
Trashman covered it this morning, but yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it'd be a bad process play.
It's just, to me, it's like, all right, so they're saying that they want to move to more of a committee, and so you're going to bring in the guy that's like
not a committee.
You don't want. It's like Brees Hall's actually a kind of good committee back with those guys just because of the skill set that he brings. Whereas Ashton Genty is just a three down monster. You want him out there on every play.
Braylon and Isaiah Davis would be a fine committee.
Yeah, if he wants to,
and then bring in like a Jaden Blue or something, and just be done with it.
Yeah, and take it's instead of having to take Genty there,
and then just trade Brees and get some picks and draft a lineman or a receiver.
People don't realize that Isaiah Davis is actually good.
No, yeah. Like, oh yeah, the other guy that got drafted with Braylon Allen. Yeah. Like no. Listen,
he's good. Yeah, and if you would have had our rankings last year, you would have known that about Isaiah Davis, and you likely would have had him stashed on some of your dynasty rookie rosters. We do have the staff rookie rankings are up right now on a temporary RosterWatch.com landing page. Right now, this week, we're doing some scheduled maintenance to the site. We knew that you guys needed to have access to the best ball cheat sheet and the Dynasty Top 250, as well as the staff rookie rankings. And so those are up right now on the front page. And so if you don't, even if you don't have a pro membership, until we get the regular site back up, you can go look at those. So RosterWatch.com is where they're up.
Free trial, per se.
Yeah, I guess. It's kind of tilting, but
it's kind of tilting. But come check it out, and then you'll commit to it. And you join the squad.
What
about after these top four? You like I'm
anything just about that tier though? It's like that is a tier, right? Quinshon.
Yeah, my overarching thought is this: that's a tier by itself, and I've said it on a ton of different shows. But Quinshon, Travion, Ashton, and Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. Again, I'll say it again. You could come back in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you could say, Cody, Quinshon Judkins is the best running back in football. Omarion Hampton is the best running back in football. Ashton Genty, Travion Henderson, they're the best. Any one of these four guys has the capability to be the best running back in the sport within a year. And I full-heartedly believe this is it's a deep class. It's a deep, strong class where you can get down to a guy like Montrell Johnson, who we'll talk about maybe if we get to him. But it's like running back 22 for us. Very good prospect. Not a great prospect, but a good prospect. Got wheels, got athleticism. Deep. But the top end of this thing is ridiculous. Like these are four guys that'll go in the top 50 and have the capability to come in and take on 250 plus touches and do it at a high level on day one. And I feel very good about that.
All right. So after that, we have, for us, the next, I don't know if you can. So the next one up is Caleb Johnson from Iowa. He's 6'1", 224. He did run the 4.57 at the combine, which I thought was not great, but I think if he would have run a 4.44 or something like that, I would have considered Caleb Johnson in that same tier with those top four that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? Even though I have not seen it on tape, just knowing it's there for me would have put him there.
But I don't think he would ever ran that. Like that's just not what he is to me. To me, he's literally like a David Montgomery, who's just a really good running back, a really good piece of a backfield. He can take on 300 touches in a season if he needs to, but it's not what I want him to do. He's going to go in there, he's going to bruise it up, he's going to be your Chubb, he's going to be that type of a guy. So I know there's people out there that have Caleb as like their third running back. I know there's people out there that have him as like their 9th or 10th running back. You and Trashman both have him ahead of Harvey. I have RJ Harvey from Central Florida, notch ahead of him. And the only reason for that is I think Harvey and his prototype of being that 5'8", 205, right, the Trey Mason-Dixon line, running a 4.4 flat with a good profile, very similar team production share this past year, and kind of fits the, J.K. Dobbins, Devonta Freeman mold.
Yeah.
I think there's a little more upside packed into that punch than there is with the Caleb Johnson one, where I guess if you were to compare it to receivers like we've talked about, Caleb would be like my Chris Olave / Emeka Egbuka. Like I know what I'm getting. He's a really good back, but I might get a little over my heels personally, a little over the skates on a guy like RJ Harvey or a guy like Luther Burden, where I see some more upside in the pocket. I might try to I might prefer that in certain situations like this.
Well, dude, I mean, this is nothing. I love RJ Harvey, and I feel like we're higher on him than most. We actually have an issue where it's like we have an issue where it's you know in dynasty, I don't know who else to take in not in one quarterback leagues at like the 201 than RJ Harvey. It's like I know that I can probably get him a little bit later than that, but I just don't know what else I can do. So like clearly he's a guy that who I love and who we value I think more than consensus. And I do agree with you that he's a guy who Caleb Johnson is not a guy who's just one touch away from taking it the distance on any play, the way that RJ Harvey is. If he gets loose, he can go the distance on you. He can really hurt you really badly if you lose contain on him. Whereas Caleb Johnson, you're probably if you have decent team speed on defense, good pursuit angles, you're going to be able to take a pursuit angle on him. So with Caleb Johnson, to me, I just look at he's just so clean as a runner, man. Like just a pure outside zone runner, one cut and go, clean vision, shed ability through the hips. We're talking just big, awesome, like hulking, big, not hulking in the same way as Omari and Hampton, right? But how can I say it? Just put the way that he holds his mass whenever you kind of stand next to the guy. He is, I like I said, I don't find it as impressive as I find Omari and Hampton, but it's almost like the way that his upper body is put together. It does present less surface area to the defense. He's not quite as broad shouldered and impressive looking a physical specimen as Omari and Hampton is, but he's densely packed. And I think he's a super clean prospect. I think that he has some of the best vision in the class. I think that the shed ability through the hips, while it's not the same elusiveness or the same sort of, this force missed tackle monster contact balance of an Ashton Genty, it's still second to none. This class is so good, dude. It's like him and RJ Harvey. It's hard for me. I kind of just leaning with consensus here a little bit. It feels like it feels like we're already higher than consensus on RJ Harvey. I think it just says a lot about him that I'm considering him with Caleb Johnson. With that being said, I do kind of consider Caleb in his own little sub tier here.
Two things. One is a PSA to all Roster Watch listeners out there, and this is why you tune in here, because you can get all the information, you can get all the sheets, all the rankings, everything over rosterwatch.com when it's up. But it's a PSA in that we're talking about RJ Harvey and how high we have him ranked and how much we love him. But if you go to the consensus and if you're out there in drafts against people that aren't in the ethos, that understand and that see certain guys certain ways, we love RJ Harvey so much. Harvey is right now on consensus on Keep Trade Cut, the overall player in Dynasty, 258. 258th player in Dynasty right now. And that just should tell you one thing. The value at which you'll be able to probably get him in most drafts, depending on draft capital. So I know people draft in dynasty drafts. They have dynasty rookie drafts before the NFL draft. Harvey's going to be a guy you probably won't have to touch until late third, or 401, 310, something like this, because he'll be in the mosh of all these other running backs. So, I'm going to take Montreal. I'm going to take Ja'Cory Crosky. I'm going to take
Nobody's going to take Ja'Cory Crosky.
You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to lump all these guys in together. Nobody's going to take Ja'Cory Crosky, but it's a different conversation. They should be. More so than anything, if you're drafting before the NFL draft, you need to be just keeping your eye on the Harvey thing, because you won't have to take him at the 201. You'll be able to take him later. And then depending on how the NFL draft goes, we'll obviously adjust and have conversations after that. But as far as Dynasty goes, it's just know that we are way ahead on him in Dynasty right now, and you don't have to be taking a guy at that particular spot. The other question for you is
the other thing too, just while you're saying that, whenever you use the Dynasty rookie cheat sheet at rosterwatch.com, we're not going to force you to do that. Because we want you to take value at every
Yeah.
turn, right? And so if you can get another player, like we're not going to, that's built in, right? We're always going to be leveraging ADP. That's kind of the magic of the sheet, right? It's why it's magical and mystical and mythical, and why it works the way that it does. But I'm just saying, when we're doing mocks with other like content creators, or Cody and I are doing a mock with each other, just about, it's like, I don't want to like that where it's just like the guys that we want to take, where we're not competing against guys and trying to build assets. It's like I've taken him some of these, like the 201, 202, and do you know what? I've seen him go in other mocks. It's like, I don't think you can always get him in the third round. I think sometimes you can get him more like end of second.
I
I
think
think
it
people are coming
depends
around.
on who you're drafting against.
Yeah. All right. So next up, and you were going to say something else. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, if you were thinking of like, I know we talked about David Montgomery, Nick Chubb. I when I think about comps, I like to have high end and low end, just to give you kind of a range of outcome. And for a guy like Caleb, is there a player out there that's not a Chubb or a Montgomery, like one that potentially came to mind with the speed and the size? And this guy didn't have quite as much college output because he got injured, but Christian Michael, he was a guy that was a colossal, obviously not success at the NFL level, but he was a second round pick, 62nd overall by the Seahawks.
Yeah, but he was a spark freak. Caleb's not.
Okay. So does anybody come to mind though for you as a potential, like, where's a place where he can be just, maybe not I don't want to say like a guy.
How much did Chris Carson weigh?
Okay, there you go.
Do you know off the top of your head? Was he two? Was he two?
I think he was over 220. He was a monster. I think he might have been a little. He was tall though too, just like Caleb is. Caleb's 6'1". Carson was at the combine, not the combine, but the pre-draft measurables. 5'11", 3/4, 218.
Yeah, Chris Carson.
He
I see some
jumped
similar.
very well, but he also ran a 4.58.
Yeah, I see. I mean, I just think it's same kind of one cut and go guy.
Yeah.
We can add him onto the list. I think that's a fine thing to add on. I mean, I just came up with it, but it's like I'm just kind of picturing him in my head, going through the old mental Rolodex. But we can add him on as a comp here. All right. On to the next. We have our consensus rankings up next. These could be different than everybody else's, but we have at number 7 and number 8. And that's after going, of course, Ashton Genty, Omarion Hampton, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson, R.J. Harvey. Again, this is consensus between Alex, Cody, and Trash Man. Just the average between all of us. Up next, we have Jarquez Hunter, who Trashman and I have at 8. Cody has at 7. And then Cam Scadaboo from Arizona State, who Trashman and I have at 7, and Cody has at 10. I've talked about Scadaboo. I'm not going to come off it. You can try. I'm not. He's my RB7 in the class. Cody has him at RB10. It's not our biggest difference. I'm looking here. There's one that we have a little bit of a bigger difference on that I'll be interested in hearing from you in a second. But tell me about why you are relatively a little bit higher on Jarquez, who I certainly love, and then why you're relatively lower on Cam Scadaboo.
I think if I'm just looking strictly at like his output, I think the profile leans towards Scadaboo, which I totally get. A guy that can probably take on a little more in the overall touch game. But again, similar to Harvey, but not quite to the same level. I don't think that Jarquez has the dynamo factor of a RJ Harvey, but Jarquez Hunter was 5'9", 204, ran a 4.44, which surprised me, and I've talked about that's one of the reasons he got bumped up for me a little bit. Jarquez Hunter's overall profile, he only has one 1,000-yard season, but he nearly hit it in 2023. He's had all 4 seasons over 500 yards rushing at Auburn in the SEC. Never crested 200 carries, so he's got a ton of tread left on the tire as far as the carrying perspective. 4 seasons, just under 550 overall carries. I like Hunter just more so. I mean, it's a mosh pit here between Hunter and Scat and Bashal Tootin and Ollie and Dylan Sand. It's just a mosh pit of guys here. My thing is, Jarquez Hunter feels like the Blake Corum of this class. He feels like the guy that did it at the high level, didn't quite do enough to make you go, oh, yeah, he's special. But everybody respected him that played against him, as you've alluded to a bunch on the show. And then for the Scatterboo side of things, I know you keep bringing up James Conner, and I know I've jokingly said Toby Gerhart. I love Toby Gerhart. So for those that think that's a diss, they can shove it. But actually just pulled that jersey out the other day. DJ Dallas, who I actually loved at coming out of Miami a couple years ago. 5'10", 1.8, 5'17", 4.58, 40. DJ Dallas carries a lot of weight in his upper body. He's not the fastest. He's a rumbling, bumbling, stumbling type of a back that can be successful. I just don't see Scatterboo. And this is why I don't have him 7, 8, 9. Is because at 7, 8, 9, for me, like I said, it's Jarquez Hunter, it's Ollie, it's Bashal. I see more upside in those guys. Scat is like, I think he's going to get good enough draft capital to where he's going to get an opportunity to do something. Don't know where it's going to be at. Could it be something cockamamie like he goes to the Jets, like we talked about earlier, and he's in some weird grouping of backs with 2 or 3 different guys, maybe. But that's not what I'm building this around. What I'm more so building it around is the historical stuff. In that, when you add the 4.65 and you put the 5/10 on it, it takes him to 4.70. He didn't run at the combine. We talked about that with Genty a minute ago. Scat didn't run anywhere. The only thing he ran away from running the 40 during the process. And we knew he wasn't fast. And
he ended up running though at the private workout.
I know, but I'm saying like he ran away from it at the combine. Then he goes and runs at the pro day. I think I missaid that a minute ago, but he ran at the pro day, ran a 4.65, ends up being a 4.70. Reports came out early, just like they do for everything else, that he ran faster than what was actually reported later. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to touch it. He's a maniacal college running back that won't succeed in the NFL.
Okay. I have a hard time with that one, especially.
Dude, he's a really good college running back, dude.
Yeah, look, man. I feel like if you watch the show, I put my thoughts, but he's a. I'll just say it here quickly once again. He's a do it all maniac. If you can't find a way to use that guy, you're a complete idiot. All right, next one up for rounding out our top 10 here. We have Bashal Tutin from Virginia Tech and Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State. Ollie Gordon, of course, prolific, ridiculous 2023 season that like Ollie Gordon's 2023 to 2024 is like Luther Burden's 2023 to 2024, or like Florida State as a team, their 2023 to 2024. It's just
that far.
Okay, maybe not Florida State as a team, but it's just something
same point.
Something you could just like, you can't, like somebody told you this was going to happen before the season. You close your eyes and you say, well, how exactly is that going to happen? That they're going to fall off to this level, right? And I think with Ollie Gordon, it had to do with the fact that his whole team fell off, right? His whole team fell off, and the offensive line in particular. But Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State, who did he win the Doak in 2023?
Yeah.
I mean, to go from that to whatever we saw last year, and it wasn't like it was terrible last year. He still rushed for 1,000 yards.
He wasn't bad.
But he wasn't all he was not OG3 like he was in 2023. The same way you can say Luther Burden was not the same Luther Burden in 2024 that he was in 2023. So there's just that question mark there. I think there might be a little bit of recency bias baked into my evaluation here. I think that the 4.6 where's my sheet? Is it 4.61?
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I actually, for some reason, I thought he would be faster than that, just because I've seen the breakaway runs from him. Right, we've seen him. Those breakaway runs, it's 6'1.5", 226 pounds. They do look faster than 4.61. So I actually think that his play speed's a little bit better than that. With Bashal Tutin, what we have here is just a guy who I feel like. Did he get a Senior Bowl bump, or was the bump that he got just because he goes and he places a 4.3 240, or was it both?
Both. The bigger bump definitely came from the combine.
Yeah.
But he was at the Senior Bowl, which is always a bump by itself, just being there. And he had a fine week, but he didn't have like this massive week. I don't even know if he made our
He
all
did. He
full team.
didn't make our thing. And
Yeah.
what I noticed is that you made and I didn't have any pushback to it at the time, but you made Marcus Yarns an honorable mention. I'm wondering if we might have him a little too low in our rankings. But that's something that
We
we
probably do, but the thing is, like with his profile, Marcus Yarns comes in for us right now, what, 26th, 25th overall, something like that. Like he's
yeah.
193 pounds. And like
Yeah, he had a good week at the Senior Bowl though, man. But like
look
that
at the it's like the was it Jawar Jordan? I think I put Tyler Irvin in there. Like
yeah.
it's just a it's a it's a
We're gonna
good
confuse
player, but it's just tough.
we're gonna confuse people in like here in the when we're talking about the top 10 and we invoke Marcus Yarns' name. As we said, we're talking about this guy's more of like number 26. It was just ancillary to another point that Marcus Yarns just got brought up. But regardless, what like your highest on OG3 of any of us? You're right in line with Bashal Tootin.
I just don't I'm not going to allow the bad play, the bad quarterback play, the bad offensive line play, the bad overall play from Oklahoma State this year to um, push my Ollie Gordon analysis away. I actually came out of the season obviously underwhelmed from a numbers perspective because it's obviously going to boost the profile and make it all look better. But um, he did fine. And my biggest takeaway postseason analysis was his hands. I think when you turn the tape on for Ollie Gordon, you'd be a little bit surprised at how solid his hands are. And he's not always used in that direction. This past year, he had 29 receptions. And like, if you turn him on, like, I guess when you think of Ollie Gordon, when you see him play a general game, you like, oh, this guy's going to run the hell out of the ball, kind of like Derrick Henry. He's not going to catch it out of the backfield. He's going to run the hell out of the football. Well, Derrick Henry's a low-key receiver. He's not the best, but he's low-key about it. Ollie is pretty solid. That's why I invoked the David Johnson comp. I was kind of thinking more towards like a Todd Gurley, kind of like a Kendall Milton. I think you might have put Najee in there. And I saw like the hands, and it's not as fluid as David Johnson because David Johnson was maniacal coming out of Northern Iowa, but
Yeah.
Ollie Gordon's much smoother in the passing game than I ever remembered. And I'll keep going back to this too. I like vividly, like I watched throughout the entire season game, maybe every third week for Oklahoma State, but I vividly remember that game week 8, 9, 10, something like this against BYU. I'm sitting on your couch outside, you're grilling, and the game's on. I watched the entire first half. He had like a $127 on the ground, and I was like, that is Ollie freaking Gordon. And I made a bet for him to go over like 165 in that game, and they just quit running. They couldn't run in the second half.
Yeah.
And it defined the Oklahoma State season, right? Winning like a game in the conference. It's not Mike Gundy football. Alan Bowman was terrible. That offensive line was terrible, and they just couldn't consistently get anything going. You never got to see the 250-yard games consistently, the 200-yard games consistently from Molly Gordon because the team was so bad. And I think that's going to be where I'm just going to die on that hill. And it's a profile that, like you've heard me talk about before, it's not the profile I would generally lead into. It's not the Caleb Johnson one. I prefer an RJ Harvey over a Caleb Johnson, right? I prefer a Jarquez Hunter over a Cam Scattaboo. But for this instance, I'm talking about taking Ollie Gordon over Bashal Tootin. But we're getting down to like RB9, 10, and Tootin's profile I don't think is as good as Ollie Gordon. So I'm going to stay with OG, a guy that was once looked at as the number 2, number 1, 1A, 1B in this class 3 years ago when it was Travion Henderson versus Ollie Gordon. So I like Ollie. I'm going to die on that hill.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. That's our top 10. I'll read them out again. Ashton Genty from Boise State, Omarion Hampton from North Carolina, Travion Henderson from Ohio State, Quinshon Judkins from Ohio State, Caleb Johnson from Iowa, RJ Harvey from UCF, Jarquez Hunter from Auburn, Cam Scattaboo from Arizona State, Bashal Tootin from Virginia Tech, and Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State. You can go to RosterWatch to the temporary landing page right now, or the site could be up by the time you guys get back to it. Knock on wood. But you can go check it out right now. It's free to everybody because as soon as the site goes back up, this will we'll make a copy of this and it'll be a new link, and that'll just be for our pro members for any additions that we make throughout the rest of the time leading up to the NFL draft. But before we get out of here, Cody, I got to just get you out of here on this. Just one quick game, okay? So you have Scattaboo ranked behind RJ RJ Harvey, and way behind him. But Ollie Gordon is ranked ahead of Scadaboo for you, and so is Jarquez Hunter. Okay, so in dynasty rookie drafts, okay, Jarquez Hunter in the second round or the third round of the NFL draft gets Jarquez Hunter in the fourth round of the NFL draft gets taken by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay.
Yep.
Ollie Gordon in the third round of the NFL draft gets taken by the San Francisco 49ers. And Cam Scadaboo in the second round of the 20. All right, fine. Third round of the 2025 NFL draft gets taken by the Dallas Cowboys. Which one are you taking in Dynasty?
I'm going to die on this hill. It's Ollie Gordon in San Francisco, baby. Downhill donkey. Give me the Niners.